Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here. There's been quite a bit done since the last time you folks were here. I've been a hold of a lot of different organizations, trying to get things clicking. Louder? Louder? How's that? If I get closer. Okay. You hear me okay now? All right. Actually got through, I went to Springfield to Lisa Madigan's office. And a lady there gave me some help filling out the proper forms to get to Chicago. Well, I thought, well, that's good. At least we'll get something rolling, but I probably won't hear from them for a month or two. Well, by golly, last week I heard from them. Actually, this week I heard from them. First part of the week. And this gentleman that I talked to is actually from the Springfield office. So he's going to be like my advocate. He represents Lisa Madigan. Now, a long time ago when the first newspaper article came out, I think that was somewhere around June, and some lady called me from Chicago. And her name is Sharon Ellsman. Okay? And she's with Land Acquisition. She's the Land Acquisition Bureau Chief, Illinois State's Attorney General's Office on Randolph Street in Chicago. So she sent me this nice letter. And she says, Ron, below is a link to the Illinois Armed Forces Legal Aid Network website. As I was told by our Office Veterans Division, that this agency might provide some assistance to your community. Given injuries to veterans that the change of ownership will inflict, or at least give you direction as to what other entitles could offer support of some type, whether legal or otherwise. Well, found out there's even grants. If you're a veteran, even if you're National Guard, veteran, reserves, doesn't matter. There are actual help there from them, including grants, yes. So I'm waiting to get, I've heard from them too. They've called me back too. And they said they were working on something. They're trying to get me someone, instead of out of Chicago, but also out of Springfield, or close by anyway. So it might be Springfield, it could be Quincy, that would be okay. Hey, wherever we get any help. But once we get the Illinois Veterans Association involved in this and find out what is available and what type of forms that might help for you folks to fill out. And also the Department of Aging, which I couldn't get anywhere with in Jacksonville here, like most of the organizations I couldn't get anywhere with. But, and they told me in Springfield, and Springfield told me to call Chicago. Well, it worked, which I didn't think it would, because it's, they have a lot of problems in Chicago, but apparently they're interested in what's happening down here. I've been to just about all of them. Mayors and the rest of the people in his organization, like all the council and people who are aldermen and that. They have a meeting twice a month. The second Monday of the month and the fourth Monday of the month. And I've been to all of them. And I've been really giving them a hard time on water hydrants. I don't know if you all know that, but I knew it for sure there was 3 out, and we were told by the water department that there were maybe 5 or 6 that weren't working, but they weren't tagged, but 3 of them were tagged. So I've been after them on that and tried to get information and having a hard time doing it. Finally, this last meeting, second Monday of this month, I talked to them again. I had some nice 5x7 glossies to show them of the house that burned out in March. I mean, yeah, and I told them it took 4 hours to put it out thanks to a tanker truck because there wasn't enough water pressure. In fact, the house that burned is on Springbrook 103. The hydrant's sitting at 105. You know how close the houses are. That didn't work. It was out of order. So they went around the corner down Norwood Way started heading west, and the first one they came to, they hooked up to that. That worked, but there was inadequate pressure, so they had a tanker truck help the situation out. Well, if they would have went to the next 2 hydrants, they didn't work either. Down Norwood Way, they did not work. So I said, you know, enough is enough. Who's in charge here? Is it the water department that has to take care of this, or is it the fire department? So, well, you know, it's kind of private land, you know, he hired his own contractors to put in the hydrants. And I said, yeah, but this is the city of Jacksonville. We pay taxes. We pay state taxes for Jacksonville. And it used to be, a couple times the fire department came out and did ours on our street. I said, I want all the information. What maintenance has been done? I said, you keep records for 10 years, correct? He said, well, yeah, okay, 10 years. Then I want 2008 to July of 2018. What work has been done on all the hydrants, street by street? And I named all the streets. They gave me 1 year, 2009. They didn't give me the rest of it. And I said, you know what? If we would have had a 50, 60 mile an hour wind the day that house caught on fire in March, it would have been like the Chicago fire here. It would have spread so fast, it only takes about 5, 10 minutes to burn one of those things out, these houses.
Had the one on the corner that did actually work, had that one not worked, we'd have been in real trouble.
Yeah, you're right, Gary, you're right.
No water down there at all.
Yeah, because there was no water further down that street. And the next one down that street was at the other end. Yeah, so, I mean, it's really a bad situation.
It was very
So,
much about water truck and there was no wind then.
right, yeah. 4 hours took them, or 3 hours took them to put it out.
Exactly, next door to the north, because they were worried about it.
Yeah. But anyway, finally someone from the council stood up and said, you know what, he's right. Not only should we, here's what we need to do. We need to check, flush every meter, every hydrant in the park. In fact, we should do this to all the parks in this town. Another guy spoke up, he says, yeah, you're right, we should do this. This has to be taken care of. This is a dangerous situation. We're putting our people in these communities in very dangerous predicament. So now they're going to go to all of them. And already, see, that was on Monday. By Thursday, I think, of last week, they already started fixing them. And they started flushing all of them in our area. And I found out there was another one out that I didn't know about. And it's right on the corner of our street, Woodfield Boulevard and Norwood Way. And they dug up a broken pipe. It was all rusted and busted out. It had a flange at one end where you bolt. The flange at the other end was still hooked to the pipe going up to the hydrant. They had to dig all that up, replace that new pipe with new pipe. And now that's fixed. So that's 4 that I know of. But there's, you know, probably more. And then also the head of the new water plant, he was there. So, you know, as soon as I walked up to him, he says, Brad, we're going to get under control now. We've got we're flushing it. We get them all done this week, and we're going to get them all fixed. There's one we have to order parts for because it's a 97 or 98 hydrant. Yeah. But it was worse than that. My first time I went up there and asked for information, they gave me information from 1997. And at that time, there was 2 streets. My street, the next one west. And, well, the east and west streets, too. Norwood and Prairie Cove, or whatever it is. Yeah, Cove. But they didn't continue. They just were partway in. But the thing is, they gave the pressures for those 2 streets in 97. The first houses were put in 98. Not 97. That's when they put the meter, that's when they put the hydrants in. So that's the kind of information they gave me when I asked for all of it. So then I had to spell it out, street by street. I want this, I want that, you know. And I didn't get much from them, I'll tell you. I didn't get much from them. But, and a lot of things that I asked for, Freedom of Information forms I had to fill out and gave them, we can't find that information. We don't know where it's at. like letters that were sent to our wonderful landlord at Prairie Knolls. Had no record of that, but yet we were given information by the water department. Yeah, information was sent to him 3 years ago. So, you know, there's a lot of things that go on that we don't know about. Things seem to disappear. But anyway, we're also very fortunate tonight. We have some people here from, actually one of them, Chandra. She's from Detroit, Michigan, and part of the Manufactured Home Action Group. And you remember we sent those around about Colin Cullerton? Well, she's here tonight, and a few others from up in Urbana, Champaign area, and even Springfield. We have people here from Springfield. So what we want to do is try to get the organization together of Springfield and combine it, you know, with us, where there's power in numbers, and we'll keep going at it and get more help from, you know, it's out there. We just got to make a lot of noise. You know what I mean? I couldn't get anywhere with the mayor until I just kept going there, pounding and pounding, you know? And so, actually the mayor told me the last time I saw him, which was last week, I went up to his office, and he said, yeah, we're getting that house taken care of. We're gonna get that house moved out of there. We're gonna get that thing cleaned up. Wonderful. It's about time. Yeah. I said, that's a good thing, because you know what? The longer that sits there, the more problems we have. Because if our insurance companies found out that we have hydrants that don't work, our insurance will either go sky high, or secondly, they'll drop us. We won't have no fire insurance. That would be a really bad situation. So we've got that cleaned up. Just like I said, guys, at the last meeting, a constant drop of water will wear away the hardest stone. So we just got to keep slugging away at them. There isn't a day go by that I'm not on the phone trying to find more help, trying to get something done here. If we can get something done, we've had one attorney, and he kind of decided he didn't want to go on with this, but I've got another attorney now out of Waverly that's studying the whole situation over, and he thinks that we might have a good case. If we can get an injunction against this outfit, it'll freeze everything. And even if it lasts 2 years, 3 years, where they keep trying to come back, they can't do anything until it's settled. So, I'm sorry I can't say our problems are all over, but the gears don't turn that fast in the government. So we've got to bide our time. I signed a paper month to month, hoping that within the next 90 days, this thing will be settled, or get to a point where we can at least stop it. There'll also be the best part. This I say for last. The best part is they are being investigated by the Attorney General's office. And I called the Florida Attorney General to complain. He said, what are you calling me for? You got to have I don't talk to you. You got to talk to your Attorney General and have them contact you. Okay, thank you, I will. So, this week, I got back to the Attorney General's, that guy that called me from Springfield, with the Attorney General's office, and I told him about what's going on, and I said, call the Florida Attorney General. He said you could call him, and then he would investigate him in Florida. Great. The other thing I found out is that they are getting feedback from all over the United States about timeout communities, and they think they have a case. That's why they're investigating them. They think they have a case, and they got a strong possibility that they can really take them for a hard ride to the court. Okay? So I'm hoping so. If we get our state's attorney working for us like that, that's what we need. But anyway, I'm going to let some people who are more talented at this and been at it for a longer time than I have talk to you. So I think the first person that's going to talk to you, I don't know for sure, is it? Yeah, Chandra, from all the way from Detroit, Michigan, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Ron. Do you think it's okay if I take this out of the holder?
Sure.
Is that gonna mess it up?
You pull straight back.
Okay. I feel like this will be easier. So yeah, I'm Chandra. I'm from Detroit. I'm with the national organization MHAction. So we are a group that works with folks in manufactured home communities across the country who are trying to organize to improve conditions in their community. So we do that in a few different ways. We have 3 staff people that work remotely from different parts of the country. So we get on phone calls with folks and offer some campaign strategy advice, and also help connect residents who are facing the same issues in different communities with each other, so that you all can share your experiences and learn from each other as well. So actually some of the folks who are working with us are here today, so I want them to also come up so they can introduce themselves. So we have Linda Reynolds, who's works with MHAction and is in Urbana, and we have Gwen and Elizabeth, who are also in Urbana. And we also have Terry Nelson, who does work with MHAction and is also the president of the statewide Homeowners Association of Illinois. So I wanted to, let's see, Linda's gonna briefly talk about what's been going on with RV Horizons in Urbana. And RV Horizons is another large corporate owner like Time Out Communities. So they've been dealing with a lot of the same issues that you guys have dealt with. So we just want to let them talk a little bit about what they've experienced.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank everybody for coming, for taking the step to be here. I know it takes a lot, and I understand your frustration. I understand your pain. I understand you just wanting to what in the world is happening now? I mean, I know where you're at. RV Horizons came and took over our community in 2012. When they came in, a mom and pop sold to them because the father passed away and the kids didn't want the responsibility. They were getting older. When they came in like a hurricane. We had landlords who were, we had managers who were drug dealers, thieves, our children in the communities. All these things was going on. It was just, I mean, it was just horrible. High rent. I just can't tell you, it was just horrible. I mean, when you were talking about the worst of the worst, that was the worst, you know? And when I sat there and I thought about it, I wanted to leave. But then when I started looking at my neighbors, my community, I said, I can't do that. I'm going to fight. I'm going to look, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to find everywhere I can go, what I can do. Ron, I feel you. I'm so thankful for you. I mean, you know, your community is my community. All of our communities are the same communities binded together. And without the mom and pops anymore, it's a whole new thing. But guess what? The good thing in that is we all have gifts that we have been blessed with throughout our life that can attribute to everything we need to have access to us, to even make your community better than it was to begin with. So, you know, it's like really important for everybody to just kind of stop and think about what I'm talking about, because you know what? People is power. Right is always right. Wrong will never succeed. And in that, I want to let you know that I am a member of also, where's Terry? Illinois Manufactured Home Owners Association. Short words is MHAI. I am a board member there. I'm also a board member with MHAction. And MHAction, I really love a lot because they have showed me and opened up to so many things. Because I'm the type of person, I don't want to stop looking. I don't want to stop learning. I don't want to stop doing what's best for everybody, you know? And MHAction has given me that opportunity, and I'm so thankful for that, because I'm not the type of person that says, hey, what can we do? You know what I mean? I'm not that type of person that says, well, It's not gonna make any difference, you know? Because it does make a difference. As Ron stated, doors open, you know? And it's really, really important for you to understand that and know that. And in this, I've learned a lot, and there is a lot. And you don't have to be a lawyer to read leases. You don't have to be a lawyer to read Illinois' laws. You don't have to be a lawyer to talk to representatives in legislation to see about getting laws changed, to make laws better. We are the people. We the people are the government, you know, and we are constituents. And because of that, our voices count. But we have to move and make our voices be heard in order for that to happen. So with that being said, I want to say thank you for having me here. And you know there's a lot to talk about, but I'm going to pass the torch to Terry.
A woman with passion, huh? My name is Terry Nelson. You have a state group called the Manufactured Homeowners Association of Illinois. I'm president, Linda's a director, and a potential director sitting in this room. So we represent you here. And our makeup, we're all homeowners like you, that back in the 90s said, when laws were being passed, like the Rent Redemption Act, where a landlord can tell you they can raise their rent as much as they want for any tenant in Illinois. That's something we're working on that we'll get into. But it's our group that are meeting with elected officials, bringing suggestions to pass. And a lot of the new things we've been doing in the last 10 years are not necessarily new laws, some are, but they're updating laws that are not keeping up with our housing market. And one of the things is what's happening to you in this area and Springfield. Mom and Pa's not there anymore. You have major, big development companies. So, Timeout's one, I can name some of them, like RV Horizons, where Linda lives, 35. But if we don't get to the Attorney General, we don't get to elected officials and other decision makers, they're not gonna know there's a problem. So what we will do as a state, and I've told Ron, I will come back again next week, where we can talk more in depth of your issues, such as the laws on fire hydrants. I'm sitting here listening, and there's more people. So also, we are a statewide organization of homeowners. You have a lobby day in Springfield. We organize things like that. It's a day where manufactured homeowners come. I'm not supposed to use the word lobby, sorry. Come and meet with legislators and share your stories. But that's what we do. We listen to homeowners and we try and get new laws passed and go to the decision makers and go to different communities. MHAction works with state groups. And if they don't have a state group, they find leadership in each state, because we all have the same landlords. You will in Timeout, you'll see that. And then, so we're here in the state to continue helping you. And I have a newsletter up here. Well, we have a newsletter that just came out last week, and an application form that describes more who we are. But I do look forward, and Ron, you're doing a great job. He was in Urbana, did you tell your friends? Yeah. Did a great job representing your community in Urbana at a Senate hearing, or fact-finding. So I'll end, I'm not sure what's next. But feel free to come and get it, and you'll learn more about us. And again, whoever worked with people.
Maybe we can have folks come get those at the end.
At the end, or yes, yeah. And so I look forward to meeting with you all and getting to know you better. And I'm sure, I hope you feel the same about me. And Jerry may be joining me. Jerry has a homeowners association in Springfield. Timeout's buying 4 communities there, and he's working with his alderman in Springfield. He's gotten new ordinances working with them. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Gary.
Introduce that we have a core team in Champaign-Urbana, and these are 2 of my core team members. This is
Gwendolyn Watkins, Urbana, Illinois. Elizabeth Sexton, Urbana, Illinois.
And another thing I didn't tell you is where I was fighting for my community. 2 years later, RV Horizons came back and bought up the other 9. And they bought 2 outside of our town, about 15 to 20 minutes away, and then they bought up the other. So it's been like, okay, so I just wanted to let you know that this is the new thing, you know, and we're going to have to do what we can together to fight together from city to city, state to state, to make things better for everybody. Because our communities are special. I know who comes in, I know who comes out, I know my neighbor. Maybe sometimes me and my neighbor don't get along, but when it comes down to it, we get together, you know? So, I mean, that kind of thing is a wonderful thing, you know? And it's worth protecting, it's worth saving, and it's worth fighting for. So, like I said, we're all the same community.
Okay, thank you. So, kind of going from that, I just wanted to, I think Terry touched on this a little bit, and Linda also touched on this a little bit, but just to let you all know that what you're experiencing here with timeout communities is part of this national trend that we're seeing, where there's more and more corporations that are buying up these communities that are based out of state, you know, a lot based in Florida, a lot based in New York, and some multinational corporations that are also buying up communities. So part of the reason why MHAction and statewide organizations are working to try to bring together people from these communities that are owned by the same company who are in different parts of the state or country is because we know if these companies are national, so an individual community isn't going to have as much luck kind of getting the company's attention than if you get all of the communities together that they own, so you can all work together to get their attention. Because if they're national, we need to be national too, so that we can have more power going up against them. So that's kind of the purpose of MHAction, and just wanted to, again, like Linda said, let you know that you're not alone. There's a lot of folks who are dealing with this, and there's a lot of people across the country who are also fighting back and trying to change laws and change the behavior from these companies. So I was going to talk, I think actually Linda is going to come back up, Linda. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we see as some strategies that you all can use to move forward and to try to make some changes to what's going on. So what we've kind of identified is 3 different types of strategies that we'd really recommend you kind of pursue all 3 at once to put as much pressure on the situation as possible and kind of increase your odds of getting the changes you want to see. So the first strategy is thinking about enforcing the current law. The second strategy is thinking about how we put some public pressure on the corporation. And then the third strategy is thinking about policy options that we have that we can change to improve protections. So we're going to start a little bit. Linda's going to talk about enforcing the current law and kind of some steps for doing that.
Okay, in order to enforce our current law, what we need to do is be very active into what we need to do with our state representatives. Okay, we need to find out who our representatives are. We need to address issues that are going on and letting them know personally. Because you know what? One thing I have to tell you, I know, unless somebody has, I mean, I know you know unseat Rodney Davis, and the thing, a lot of people feel that way, so I only say it that way, but, and there are bumper stickers everywhere, so, but the thing is, when I spoke with him personally, you know what? You'd be surprised. People don't know about communities unless they live in them. Or they have a friend or a family that lives there, and then it's only limited things that they really do know. So when you sit and you talk with them, you need to, talk with them about things that are going on. You also need to ask if they can help support laws that we are trying to pass. We're always trying to work to pass better laws. Manufactured homeowner communities have different laws than renters. Okay, our laws are different unless it's a state law, like the rent control law. It's a state law. Because it's a state law, then that means it includes everybody, even manufactured homes, but communities. But what you need to do in order to start with your project is, first of all, keep all of your paperwork, Every bit of paperwork that they give you, anything that they give you that's pertaining to anything that they're demanding, they're asking, they're requesting, or anything, you always save it, okay? Then what you're going to do is take notes. You want to take notes, you know, like on date it, take notes on maybe certain things, conversations, and what's going on with this at the time. So you have that also, okay? Because paper trail and information is very important, because then it's not a he say, she say. It's a, you know what, I have this proof right here, you know? And that speaks a lot, you know? Also, what you want to do is really, truthfully, it's the big P word, patience. Okay, it doesn't have, if you're looking for a quick fix, you're at the wrong place, okay? Because it's a process, and then you know everything in life is a process, okay? So this is no different. You have to have patience in what you're doing, you know? And when you're angry, never do anything, okay? Ever, okay? Because don't do angry, okay? So whatever you do, have patience in what you're doing, have your paper trail, take your notes, okay? And in that, that's going to be a lot of what we need to do as far as the beginning of what we're doing.
Yeah, and all of that is really important for thinking, for enforcing the law of thinking of either going to the Attorney General's office or to a private attorney. So we really try to recommend, especially in your case where it seems like there is potential issues in the lease, that all of you file Attorney General's complaints. So it's great that a few people already have done that, but really we want to get the attention of the Attorney General's office. So if every single person in the community sends in a form, they're really going to realize the urgency of the situation. So I think Linda is going to show a few folks from your community how to fill out the form and some issues she's identified in the lease, so then hopefully you all can help each other fill out the forms. And then even with a private attorney, if you're working with a private attorney, like that's also going to be a long process. It's just going to take time. So that's what we really want to, don't give up just because there's a little process that it's going through. So then kind of the other piece of going into the corporate strategy. So when we're thinking about this, we really want to think about how we're going to get the company's attention. So if everyone's calling the office, they're not getting back to all of you, we need to think of something else that's going to get their attention and try to bring them to the table so they'll actually talk with all of you. So there's different tactics in this. So some ideas are trying to get more press coverage. It's great, you guys have already been doing that. Thinking a little bit beyond even the local press coverage. So Ron was talking about reaching out to the AG's office in Florida. It'd also be great to send letters to the editor and op-ed pieces to Florida papers saying, this is a company based in your state, this is what they're doing to my community, and try to put pressure on the company where they actually are headquartered. So the other piece that MHAction does as part of our support role to folks is try to do some corporate research into these companies so we can also identify other decision makers. So we're doing some research into the company right now, and we'll kind of follow up when we have a better idea of other strategies you guys might want to take on that. But yeah, I mean, thinking about other ways to actually bring this issue to the people at the company who make the decisions. So right now they can kind of ignore all of you, it's not hurting them at all. We want to show them that this is a concern that they actually need to take seriously because it's impacting your lives, and as really customers of their company, they need to be concerned about what's happening in your lives. So that kind of goes back again to what I was saying earlier about why we need to reach out to other communities owned by this company too, so that all of you can kind of be engaging in this work of putting public pressure on the company together to try to get them to come and talk with all of you about their practices. And so then another thing that can be helpful with getting the company's attention a little bit better is actually asking the local politicians that support you to send letters of complaint to the company themselves, to make phone calls to the company. This has been a successful strategy with another large corporate owner that's similar to Time Out in New York State, where some of the local elected officials in the community have offered to be a mediator with this company. So far the company has done a lot of BSing to the elected officials too, and now they understand how big of an issue it is, and they're taking more proactive action at the local level to pass protections for manufactured homeowners, because they've actually seen firsthand how these companies are treating people. So that helps both in terms of hopefully getting the company's attention more, but also in terms of educating the elected officials on what you all are dealing with. So that is kind of moving then into the third strategy, which is talking about policy options. So Linda's going to talk a little bit about what we're working on right now in the state of Illinois to increase protections.
Okay, right now what we're working on is we have the SB bill, it's the SB 3512, which is to change the rent control law that they've had in effect for the last 21 years, which means any landlord anywhere can charge as much as they want for rents, okay? There's no set price, there isn't anything. So, and to tell you the truth, they're really close together because whether we're living in a manufactured community or we're living in an apartment or lower income housing, they're charging high rent, okay? And it's a hard thing, okay, for especially seniors on fixed incomes and disabled people and our veterans and even families that work with low income wages, you know, it's a very hard thing. So with that happening, it's really important for us to support this bill. And the bill is going to be about that we're putting a stance on landlords being able to charge whatever they want to getting it modified to the consumer price index, so that way it'll be not so high at all anywhere, period, anymore. So we're really working hard to get that going so that we can get a change and that there will be a way of a better rent for everybody. Also, with that being said, what we need to do is to have people contact President Cullerton. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm glad I don't have to talk to him personally because I really have a hard problem with his name and I think I would be in a lot of trouble for everybody. So, you know, I'm just like, I got to really work hard on that because I do have a problem with his name and I think he'd be highly offended. But with that being said is that it's really important to get a hold to his office. You can call and you can talk to them and tell them that you're in support of the bill and you can even give them a reason why, which is a good reason why. Ask to speak to him personally. If not, then they'll let you speak to his aide, so his legal aid, and that will get to him as well. But it's really important that we all get together and support what we're trying to get as far as the laws go with the rent control, because rent control is a real problem. And then I want to get back to the SB. Terry, let's talk about the bill, the one that we currently have that's going, it's the SB 563. I'm sorry, 569. We have this bill going on, and Terry, you want to give information and talk more about it? We have a couple of bills working.
SB is Senate bill, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
And the newsletter that I brought tonight will give a little more detail. I don't know how your last landlord was, but get ready. And I'd like to touch on a few things you're going to see with the bigger development companies. And again, this is an article that's in our newsletter. What we've seen is their turnover of managers. Yeah, and then because they're a big development company, they'll tell you they have a regional manager. You don't like what your local manager's doing. And then you have your corporate headquarters. So one of the things when I come back I want to talk about is how to stay ahead of this. And paper trail is on top of the list. So we can educate you on what's happened to other. And another thing is, and I'll be real quick, Sandra, but you may not realize this, these bigger development companies, five are on the public stock exchange. So now your shares, you're not even a number in a book. And you just never know when a company will do it or if they will, but this is something I want to get you ahead before it happens and you're ready to deal with it and you're not so upset because sadly, a revolving doors of these managers and regional managers is the norm now. Senate Bill 569. A state of Illinois or a local municipality can go to your landlord, their responsibilities for infrastructure, roads, sewer, lighting, but they don't fix it. So, And they're not gonna share it with you. You have to stay on top of this. Well, you'll know, because you're the ones writing in the violations. They get another round of violations. Next thing you know, it's a year later. The bigger development company managers will say, well, they said they'll give us the money next year, but beside that point. So now you know, in some cases, it's 2 years. But who's gonna close that community down, no matter how bad that infrastructure is? They're not gonna close it down, the state's not gonna close it down, so don't worry about losing your home. It's your community health you gotta worry about. Senate Bill 569, throughout the years, we've tried different things. What this one says is, you get a rent increase, and there's any health code violations, fire hydrants, part of that, any ongoing health code violations they didn't fix, you cannot put a rent increase on the homeowner until they're fixed. It is our hope that, you're hitting their pocketbook, and you can believe they fought this. And it kind of gets back to the rent control bill. Want to talk about it a little more? In 1997, when this bill was passed, I happened to be there. You gotta know, I started when I was 5 doing all this. I've lived in my manufactured home community for 40 years, bought my home when I was 2. So there we go, if you're wondering. And I know what, and when I write about this, how would you know, if someone said to you today, oh, the state's looking at a law to pass that says a landlord can raise your rent every year as much as he wants, and no local municipality or any other entity can interfere in that. So your mayor and your city may want to work with homeowners on that, but because it's a state law prohibiting any kind of interference, that's the problem. And we are working with mayors statewide that want to do something but can't. So, I'm saying to you, stay a little bit interested, a lot like Ron. Get some leadership in your community established. Ron, good start. And, maybe get our newsletter so you know what's going on. And what we want to do is try to stay ahead of things. In the newsletter is a letter for the governor, and I'm going to ask you, please, if a neighbor or someone says, oh, you'll never get a law passed, for whatever reason, they're paying off someone or et cetera. Our organization has gotten a law passed every year since 1998. And we'll give you copies of these laws. So there's a letter for the governor. Please sign it and send it in.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Terry. So just to follow up on what Terry and Linda were both talking about, and to kind of explain what handouts we have down here for you. So as Linda mentioned, SB 3512 is the bill that would repeal the statewide ban on rent control. So it legalized rent control. So the first step is to pass that bill. The second step is then you have the ability to work with your local governments to pass something that makes sense for your municipality. So there's more information on SB 3512 here. The other piece that it does is it sets up some baseline rent stabilization for the lowest income folks in the state. So for people making, I think it's at 120% or below of the area median income, they would have a set rent stabilization that would go into effect for their housing. So it basically repeals the statewide ban and establishes rent control for the most vulnerable residents of the state. And then it gives you the ability to pass local rent control ordinances that can protect your community and fit your community's needs. So there's information on that bill there. There's also the information on how to call Senate President John Cullerton here. And then the strategic steps that Linda and I walked through, those 3 kind of possibilities of how you go about this, we have those written down for you here. And then the MHAction newsletter is over here. So Ron, do we have questions, or time to take questions from folks if people have questions, or are we moving on to another piece?
Do you have time, Ron, for a question and answer? Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Terry made a statement that they can't touch our rent until they fix that certain thing.
No, the bill, the bill has,
They have to
can't
pass
have
the
rent
bill
increases until infrastructure is taken care of. Okay, it hasn't passed yet. It's
So
still in the,
It passed the assembly, right, and it's in the Senate. So that's another thing if you're, oh, it passed the Senate and it's in the assembly. So that's something to call your assembly member about and ask them to support it.
and there's information on there.
Yeah.
Along with, I gotta say this, because I don't want you confused. I got confused and I wrote it. There's the letter to the governor is a law that's on his desk dealing with abandoned homes. So we want him to pass this law. All you have to do is sign it, send it in, you read the letter, and you can do form letters. It's really good to get stories from people, but when it gets this part in the process, they do count them, and I call asking, making sure, and how many different cities throughout the state are sending them in. They look up zip codes, because opponents like to say it's only one part of the state or whatever, and more. So that's what that's for, but 569, once they fix, for the gentleman in the back, once they fix those violations, then an increase would go into effect, and it's not retroactive. People ask me that. But it seems to be that taking money, not allowing that rent increase, money out of their pocket, affecting them. I mean, if anyone has a better idea, let me know.
I'm not sure if I'm not following you, because the fire hydrants aren't fixed, but they're still raising our rent.
Well, it's not gone into law yet.
The law hasn't been passed yet.
I was at a hearing about 2 months ago, so it's still in a House committee. We gotta go through the process.
Yeah, you got.
So Terry's saying this is something that you all can take action on to pass, to help pressure your assembly members to pass, so that it will incentivize in the future that they actually have to maintain the communities properly.
Is the assemblies the same bill number, or do they have their own?
Does it stay the same?
No, it stays the same bill unless it's dead,
It can
unless it dies.
change, but if it would, we'd let you know, and the change would be because it would benefit us.
Yeah.
But,
That's why it's good to be on the
That's-
Mohai newsletter, so that
you
you
need
know.
to make some voices
toes.
Springfield. It's nice when a senator can call up a mayor too, not just a mayor calling a senator. So, if it does change, believe me, I'll let you know. I'll be the one freaking out.
Any other questions for folks? Go ahead.
The lady that in the middle said that these people landed in your backyard 8 years ago. Where have you gotten since that time?
Since that time, I have went to the Attorney General, and also I was qualified for Lincoln Land Legal Assistance, okay? The Attorney General helped, I mediated 9 cases with the Attorney General. First case was, God, I should have brought all of them with me. But the first case was the situation with the managers, okay? And I was able to get a paper trail on that and look up and investigate, because as you know the manager's name, then you can look in and, thank God for Google and internet and all that, because you can look it up and then you can find out, well, you know what, these people have a history, because it seems like the owners are really slimy. Well, the managers they get are slimy. So if the manager tells them the landlord tells them to do something that's wrong, well, the manager's already doing wrong, you know what I mean? So it's like how you always look for, you get what you're around, kind of thing. So it's like with that happening, I took all of that paper trail, went to the Attorney General, and we were able to make a big change in as far as how it was working out with managers. So now we get managers. There is a high turnover with not really a high turnover with managers for us because of that, because what it is usually the managers that we do get, the landlord takes months to get it back to them, you know what I mean, on issues, and sometimes not at all. So some quit. And then the ones that don't want to do the dirty work because the managers are dirty, they leave. So that's the biggest reason why we usually have, a change in management with us, but before it was just really awful. Then again, I went against the landlord because the fact was we had Oh geez, we had the first right to refusal, okay? We went against that. We were going to do a law on the first right of refusal, which was, I heard people here talking about how the people have sold their home to the landlord really cheap. Well, what the landlord did to us was he sent out a paper form and he said, anybody who wants to sell their manufactured home, they need to give them the first bid. Okay? And I'm like, what? So there was a lady who was in our community, and she's a really nice lady, and she wanted to move to a different state with her parents, you know, to kind of help them because they were senior. So she owned a very, very nice home, and she could have easily sold it, but she was only, for a lot of money, but she was only asking $8,000 for it, okay? Well, what happened was when every time somebody would come and apply, they were turned down. So like 9 people came to apply, okay? And all 9 of them was turned down. And then eventually it got to be to the point where she ended up selling it to the landlord for $3,000 just so she could leave. So what happened was we went to the Attorney General with all the information, the first right refusal, and the Attorney General mediated with them, went back and forth, and then what happened was instead of making it a law actually, they dropped that. Our leases were just horrible, okay? Leases had so much stuff in there, you know, that was just not right, okay? And it's really interesting how I see that from different states that I have been to with these particular corporate landlords, they all have the same technique, like they all went to the same mobile home university to get educated, because they start off the same way and they work their way down to this lease and then to that lease, you know, and it's like, okay, so we took them to the Attorney General over the lease, and the situation was, you know what, you need to write a decent lease. You have stuff all in this lease here that's not right, it's not about the laws, it's not about how it should be. Well, they started writing a better lease. And the leases have got, so they still put the law in there, but they write it the way they want it to be, okay? So, but then we addressed that, and now we've gotten to the point where we just look over the lease, look over the rules, highlight what we don't agree with, initial it, write a little, we don't agree with the lease, we're not signing it, and turn it in. So, also, so, I mean, these are just a couple of things, but I've went to them, petitioned them on many, many things, you know, and I can tell you that it works. Because here's the thing, too. When you go with the Attorney General, you're getting a paper trail back from them, right? And that means a lot. So you can have this and take it to your legislators. You know what I mean? And they can say, wow, you know? It's not so much of a he say, she say. It's actual real documentation. And documentation is very important. You know, it means so much. There are other things that I went against. I'm sorry. I was so mad when they came and took our community. You know what? They filled our swimming pool with dirt. They took our community area, okay?
You had a swimming pool?
Yes, we did. Yes. And you know what? They took the playground because that was considered a liability. Oh, and don't let the kids play in the street. I mean, you know, I can tell you, just fighting all these, but this is, I mean, these people are so slimy. They're just horrible.
Had a question back there?
Can I ask something extra, just real quick? To help him with this.
Hello?
You're going to the Attorney General, and this is something we'll talk more in depth when I come back. There's certain agencies that you complain to. The Attorney General's lease. RV Horizons, we now own 35 communities. It's not just Urbana. We've gone to the Attorney General, but they deal with leases. RV Horizons from Colorado, they sent a Colorado lease. Your company, Time Out, is from Florida. Now, I haven't seen your lease, but Illinois residents, manufactured homeowners in Illinois, have a lot of better laws, for a word, better. You're more protected than other states. Now, if your homeowners don't know some of the laws, like the disclosures, they don't know. And you know, the manager's always right? No manager's ever wrong. Just kidding. I hope there's any manager here, but, so that's what we want to do with Linda tonight. RV Horizons, we, against that company, work with homeowners in 16 different communities. And that's how, and then we can, again, go to the legislators, but, that was the big thing, was the lease. Don't let them get away with that. You don't have to believe everything you read.
Our lease is available, because I sent it to them.
Yes, and I have it very well highlighted and initialed. The thing too I want to say is that when they took over our my city, okay, that was over 2,000 people. So when I was very angry and working against them for the from 2012 to 2014 and trying to educate myself and find out and go against everything I could, it was hard because I work and I'm raising 2 of my grandsons, and I had another son. My oldest son was terminally ill, you know, but I was still like, no, you know what? Where there's a will, there's a way. I know it, you know, and I kept on going, but it was hard because I had then all these other communities that were took over, so I had to suck into all of that. You know what I mean? And it was really hard work. It was really hard work. But you know what? God is good all the time. Okay? All the time. And I've been blessed to have 4 team members who help me out now, who we work together, and we come together, and we work for the greater and better cause. I mean, I'm here for people that can't be here. You know, I'm here for to do whatever I can to try to help educate everybody. And I can only pray that everybody here will listen and jump on board.
And so I guess if there's no other questions, we'll give it. Okay, yep, we
You
do.
know that? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he himself had not read those rules that we all signed.
He said,
Well,
Let me tell
I
you
don't
about
think
that.
he had, because in the rules, it said we were to have a certain wide, entrance to underneath our trail.
Okay.
Now, when I said, I only have 1, it said 2. Many people hadn't even read that rule. And he said, oh, that's a stupid rule. And his finger, he got that on that rule. And he was reading. And when he read it, he said, that's a stupid rule. He hadn't even read his own rules he was to enforce.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one thing that I do know from experience too? Okay? That is, anytime you have an owner who's going to be a manager with a company like that, it's time to get a new manager. Okay? I'm just letting you know. Okay? From experience. Okay? Thanks.
One
And
quick point about her manager.
Yeah.
There's 2 other mobile home parks that he owned, and both of them, the street's been in disrepair for years.
Yeah.
And he's violated that state law for years.
Yeah.
And
So
they're not present at this meeting, but.
So you already know that he's not going to be a good manager.
I'm Jesse, since he was behind I grab it, so yeah, you can't believe a
brother
whole
was
lot.
up with his uncle.
Yeah, you can't believe a whole lot Jesse tells you.
Okay.
I'm just telling everybody, if you don't already know, you can't believe a whole lot Jesse tells you. If it, how do I want to put it? If it helps Jesse out, like when you went in there, to tell you one thing, he will tell you to your face, and even if you know he's lying, you confront him.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll sign that. I said, I only have 1. I'll sign that, allowing me just to have 1. Well, he gets fired, which I know. He'll get fired. And then somebody else will come in and say, you only have 1. You need to have 2. It said 2.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would caution, I mean, he sounds like a very bad manager, so I understand your frustration, But as much as possible to keep your energy focused on the company, because they're, at the end of the day, even if you have a great manager, like Linda was saying, the great managers tend to leave because they get frustrated with the companies. So what you need is to get the company to change their policy from the top down, and then they'll hire better managers, hopefully. But yeah, that sounds super frustrating. Yeah, go ahead, Ross.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add, you know, all you folks that signed that petition that my wife and I went around and gave you, that went to the Attorney General, that petition that all of you signed, and I got action back in a week. I couldn't believe it. You're from where? The Attorney General's office. Wow. Yeah, thank you for calling. What great news do you have for us? And he says, well, we're gonna do what we can. We're gonna investigate this company. And yes, we will get a hold of the Attorney General down there. So,
Hey, Ron?
I want, yes.
What did you find out Thursday when you went up?
When I first went up there,
Well, this Thursday, what happened with that? Yeah,
in Urbana,
yeah.
not a heck of a lot. It was kind of lopsided. I mean, it didn't cover everything. It covered mostly, what would that be, like Section 8 homes?
Yeah, so the meeting on Thursday, excuse me, the meeting on Thursday was it was a Senate committee hearing of the Senate Special Committee on Housing, which was a new committee that was just established to look at affordable housing issues in the state. So the meeting, the purpose of it really was for the members of the Senate who are trying to push this bill, SB 3512, which would repeal this ban on rent control laws, to start establishing a record of why affordable housing advocates and manufactured homeowners think that there needs to be a change to the law. Then they had one gentleman who testified for a very long time that I think folks got frustrated with, who was from affordable housing developer, who went into a lot of detail that was pretty boring, to be frank. So I think the positive that came out of the meeting, even if it was not the most exciting meeting to attend, is that there was a huge number of manufactured homeowners in the room who really spoke up and made the issues of manufactured homeowners known, and I think educated some of the members of the panel who didn't really realize how big of an issue it was. And so now we have that on this record of the Senate Special Committee hearing. So even though it was not the most exciting meeting, I think it was a very important step for establishing this record of what's going on in our communities.
And this is what we do as a state organization. I was there, Linda there, Sandra, and now they're gonna be going throughout the state. I'm sure all of you can just hop in your car and be in Rockford tomorrow, right? I mean, we understand the age, of our membership and et cetera, and that's why you need a voice still. So I'll be in Rockford on September 12th and bring up some more issues dealing with our housing market, wish me luck.
I can't go because I have to work, sorry. The thing is that I want to say too is that with the meeting that we did have with the Senate Thursday, I was one of the speakers, and I was very impressed to know that they cared enough to say, oh, this is about manufactured home communities. And I said, yes, ma'am, it is. So they said that they would look into things, get things going, and I'm really, really thankful that that door has been opened and more senators can be educated on us as a people.
Linda, I have another question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You said your community, they came in 2002?
12.
2012. So what has rent control, have they controlled your rent, or have
Well,
they
here's the thing.
skyrocketed, or what?
They don't like stirring up a lot of mess. They don't like media. They don't like, their names being, I can let you know that, stir up all the trouble you can, okay? And then again, it's because there's a rent control law.
Or a law that makes rent control illegal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just the opposite of breaking.
thank you. Yeah, because there is a law. We petition it, We are against it, we complain about it, I send it everywhere. But you have to remember, you know, there are still a few mom and pops out there. There are still really good landlords in apartments and houses that, you know what I mean, are there, but they're all dying off, they're getting old, and the kids don't want to be there. And you know what, it's just a very hard thing. You know, it's sad and it's hard, okay? Well, you know what? I think it's time for us as a people to step up, because we've been blessed all these years, you know? And maybe some of our landlords weren't the best, you know, but it wasn't as bad as it can really be.
And I think, sorry, so your question was whether or not they've been able to control the rent?
Yeah.
No, not until it's a law. Not until the law is changed. What's our percentage? Well, they have raising ours at this point. They're raising ours this year, okay? It's the first time they've raised it, it'll be raised $50, okay? But because they have to give a 3-year rent projection, which is a law, it lets you know for the next 3 years exactly how much they're going to raise your rent.
Or not to exceed.
Well, yeah, not to exceed over, they can't go over the amount that's on that projection. So she wants to put that there. But at the same time, if you're on a month-to-month, okay, there's nothing there that's protecting you, okay? And what happens is they can give you 4 raises. They only have to give you 90-day notice. They can give you 4 raises a year.
They have to give you.
They have to give you that.
They have to give you a 90-day notice before they can give you an increase. So every 90 days if they feel like they want to. Yes.
In the state of Illinois, they can only raise your rent once every 12 months, as much as they want.
Even though it's
on a month-to-month.
Even on a month-to-month? Oh, well then I apologize, I'm sorry. I've been running wild.
Clarify that. I couldn't
The
hear you.
state of Illinois, a landlord in a manufactured home community can only raise their rents once every 12 months, whether you have a month-to-month or in Elgin, they have a 10-year lease. And that's where and they have to give you a 90-day notice, and that's what these out-of-state development companies, that's usually the first sign, that's how you know. A lot of our cases with the Attorney General has been because they tried to do it twice in 12 months, or they didn't give that 90-day notice.
Yeah, that was the spring.
So what is the protector as far as, Terry, a month-to-month versus a 2-year?
I personally would want a 10-year lease for the main reason, and I'll get to month-to-month, is that they can sell that land. There's a lot of protections in Illinois to help you relocate for another usage, but the longer your lease, the more protection you have. The state requires 2 years, that was something we worked for to help, and you have to have a 12-month notice. Now, a month-to-month, every 2 years you get your lease, they can do amendments in between, but you have less protection on the eviction process.
Yes.
So,
What they gave us was either you do month to month, and you can have that at $365 a month. But if you want a 2-year lease, which you say, and I agree, the state of Illinois provides for, it's now $465 a month. They jumped another $100.
what I would do with that, which Linda
What's your last
will be working, but in the future, you think it's only gonna happen, if it happens to one neighbor, it's eventually gonna happen to y'all.
But there's one point to that. As of now, they're still only charging the $365 a month, even with that $465 a month on the 2-year lease. That's a guaranteed cap that you can't go over that during your 2-year period.
Right. And,
But at the end of the year, as I understand it, even though you've got a lease, they can increase the rent.
with a 90-day notice, and that's something we're working on. Now, if we had this bill we've been discussing that deals with rent, which allows the state of Illinois to take that lift off that ban, that they can do whatever they want. And also what this bill will go county to county, it's in the newsletter again, you know, it's not as simple as, and it may change a little bit, but every county is different. Sir, I wish I would have known that, because these guys will intimidate you.
All the time.
Oh, these people.
Yeah.
And if they actually do
Come
something,
on a Friday to run your weekend.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And then they tried to
Every
do it
time.
on August 1st because we didn't have it back into them soon enough.
but if you didn't know now, but in hindsight, if that happens again in your community or here, any community, get to the Attorney General, because that's lovely, because, well, not that the harassment part's lovely, but it's lovely when a landlord puts wrongdoing on paper.
Yeah.
Then you can do something about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our latest Attorney General just this
When does
week,
ours go up?
Homeowners Association got a new manager and she told them they couldn't use the clubhouse or have homeowner meetings.
I want to back up just for a second, just for clarification. So if they can't raise it, but every 12 months, ours went up August 1st.
Okay.
They will not be allowed to raise it again until August of 2019. Would that be correct?
That's correct, with a 90-day notice.
Okay, right.
First, they gotta give a 90-day notice.
I
That's
read
in 90
that,
days
I read that in
before.
the Illinois law, but I thought there was a proviso they can wiggle out of it somehow or another.
That's on ours.
Maybe in another housing market, it's pretty black and white.
Yeah, there's.
And if you're wondering why Linda or myself know so much about the Mobile Home Landlord Tenants Act, it's because it's our organization who's been writing these laws.
Actually, that's where I read it, was on your website.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. A manager may tell you, or even a landlord.
2012, it was 200.
And I will tell everybody, you guys do have an excellent website, and a heck of a lot of information.
Thank you.
$100.
Thank you.
That's not really a lot.
Like the newsletters while they're talking, I say, how many people in the room get our newsletters? How many read it? There's a lot going on.
You have a lot of information on your website that's really worth reading.
Thank
And
you.
it goes back all the way to 97.
Mohai.org.
Home that started.
What is it?
Okay, but can I say that Chandra had just asked me since 2012, how much has my rent went up to current? It's been about $100 since 2012.
Is that overnight?
Well, that's what happens when you raise heck. No, but the same thing is that what I'm saying is they have added extra fees. Okay, so you know how you pay your rent and you have communities have water, sewage, garbage included in that. Now what they're doing is adding extra fees, which is water, sewage service fee, garbage, okay? So I'm fighting them on all of that and getting all of my paper trail together and working on it. They're real slimy and sneaky, and they're always changing their information at the sewage department, their account information. And they're always changing their name.
Yes.
There's so many things, you know what I mean? And then, you know, like I said, I have a life too, so I'm trying to, you know, get where I can, do what I can and stuff, but I'm getting there. But with that also being said, they're also putting in their new, which I'm sending to the Attorney General too, is they're putting into their paper that extra fees is considered rent. Okay, no, it's not.
Well, if it is, they can't do it then.
But that's what they're trying to do, and I also read it in the lease that was for your community. They're saying also these fees are rent. So really, with this being said, it's not, okay? And then we have a new law too that's been passed that says that the only thing that you can do, rent money is just for rent. You cannot take fees out of any rent money, okay?
So was there a question? Yeah.
They only pay for the garbage. We pay our own water, our own sewer. We pay everything ourselves. The only thing they provide is trash.
Okay, well, we had that, but now we pay our trash too.
So I think the point Linda's making here is that, so her rent only went up $100, but they took out all the utilities and are now charging people for them separately. So even though her rent went up $100, it was really more like a $175 increase.
Why wouldn't it be advantageous to have that called rent? Because they can only raise the rent once a year. Why
They
would
get
it
more
be
money that way. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
When this started happening, we got your lease, it's a lease law in Illinois. Now, they have to disclose rent. If anything is extra, garbage, sewer, you're on water meters, they have to list that, because they would tell, you know, a new buyer, oh, come on in, it's $100 or whatever, $400, and that includes everything, and they get in after they sign the dotted line and find out all these extras. So what these development companies have done, I live in a mom-and-pop community, one of the left. I bought my home when I was 2, right? So everything's included in it, but I don't see that anymore. I haven't seen that in years. The bigger development companies could say, we only raised our rent $25, but these fees add up to another $75, and that's something we're working on. Other than that, at least now it has to be clarified. Does that make sense to everyone?
Okay, so is there any more questions? Would you like, okay.
Well, I'm with a small park in Springfield. Gaslight is an age-qualified community. It looks like most of the people here may be eligible for that kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Talking about understanding your lease, most people, when they're given, a matter of fact, most leases are anywhere from 42 to 62 pages long. And when the manager goes through the lease, he can sign here, initial here, he'll give you a summary of what's on there. And generally, people are not really familiar with the things that they have signed. That is a signed contract between two parties, and it's a legal agreement. So it's really important, before you even say anything to any of these people, to understand your lease. Now, what Terry's saying is that in many parks, before this sub-metering came into effect, that the utilities were quite often included in the rent, and it would have said that in your lease. That's what this whole thing of rent being utilities. Well, at one time that was the case. It isn't so much anymore. In my park in Springfield, the owners are from St. Louis, and what they had done was they decided they weren't going to pay water anymore. So we're involved in something called sub-metering, that the city of Springfield provides water right to the entrance and sewage to the entrance of my park. And then the infrastructure in the park is the responsibility of the park owners. What they decided, the park owners decided to do was to work with a company, we have a company called ABT, to put in meters, and the meters through Wi-Fi connect to a station, and it has a daily, you can actually go on the website, and it has a daily reading of what water and sewage you're using. And like my water bill, for instance, my water is normally around $3 a month, and my sewage is around $3 a month, and my bill is normally $35 a month. There are additional things when they sub-meter that go beyond paying the basic water and sewage rate. There's well, it's funny I use that word base because they have a charge for a base rate. I think you may see it as a meter rate. Then they also have administration fees that are on the bill. Maybe you haven't gotten that far. But the bottom line is when they do the sub-metering, your water rate is going to go up dramatically. What we did was to work with our aldermen, and we talked about home rule. Home rule means that cities some cities can opt to actually do ordinances that are more strict than or even maybe a little bit more lenient than what the state laws are. And in Springfield, our aldermen actually got an ordinance passed that says that they cannot pass on these high base rates for water and sewage. And like our water rate, a base rate was like 10, and our sewage rate was like 10. That was tacked down to our actual usage. What they have to do, according to our ordinance, is that they can't charge us any more than what they pay for the base rates. And that has really decreased. Well, it hasn't happened yet. Actually, the city of Springfield is suing the park because they're in violation of city ordinances. But you can get stuff done through your city alderman. I don't really know much about Jacksonville. But
We are a home rule town. We are home rule.
You are.
You are home rule,
Yes.
okay. Well, that's something they can do. And actually, because I actually have a copy of the city ordinance, I could probably send it to you.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say was, nobody will want to talk to you about this. I'm going to do something that they wouldn't do. That the amount of money people pay for their lot rent varies greatly depending where you live in the state. It's almost like it is in any other city for rent. And what this company is doing is, the average rate was around a little bit less than $300 for Springfield and Jacksonville. With the increase that they're going, we've got a large park, it's Grand Valley Village, that's also owned by Time Out. They have over 400 lots.
That's right.
And they're raising theirs about the same as yours. What happens is that raises the fair market value for the entire area. So it isn't just your park that's going to get screwed over. My park also is going to be raising its rates because they factor in the amount that this company is raising yours. So, and the other thing that they probably won't mention is, we, you know, as individuals, they really are not going to listen to us unless we get organized. That if we are a voting bloc, they have to listen to us. Because, I mean, you know, little tiny us where we're living in low income homes versus these companies that are multi-million-dollar entities. I mean, they have paid lobbyists for each company, and they invest heavily in the community. Their voice is considerably louder than ours unless we get organized. When we become a voting bloc, we are able to be heard. And that's all I want to say. Anyway, we've got some really wonderful things done in Springfield just recently. And you can do the same thing too, is all I'm saying. There's a lot to consider, believe me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to also say what you're talking about. What really upsets me is that these corporates are coming in and taking our investment to their states. All out of Illinois. That's what really, really bothers me, like you just don't know. Because you know what? Illinois can be better than that. You know? We need to be better than that.
I think Illinois property costs the same as Florida property.
Exactly. Right? And, you know, and they're taking all of that. You know, even the landlords for the investors for apartments. Oh my gosh. You know? All of that is going to their states.
That was brought up at the Senate hearing.
We need to protect. We need to protect Illinois. You know, we are the people. We, the people, are the government. We're the constituents. We need to get busy.
We pay their salaries.
I want to thank everybody. I got to go take a rest.
I think we better wrap this up. They're giving us a little hint to turn off the air conditioning, as you might have noticed.
There's like an oven in here.
Yeah, it's like an oven in here. And we were supposed to end this at 7:30. We're about 25 minutes over or so. But that's okay because it's been very educational. I hope everybody got some good out of this meeting and maybe a little more enthusiasm, getting something done. So thank you very much for taking.
Are you coming back here next?